Welcome back, everybody, to the next episode of Kelly's Quest. We are here during quarantine time in Massachusetts. I'm just so thankful that I have the members of BAGLY here with me. And BAGLY, Aaron, I will let you explain what BAGLY is. And then we also have Leo and Lala with us. Thank you very much. And this is going to be an episode on how to stay in touch with LGBTQ youth during a pandemic.
Kelly, thank you so much for inviting us to be on your show. We are beyond excited to be here. BAGLY is the Boston Alliance of LGBTQ youth. We started in 1980, and so this is actually our 40th year.
And Leo, what is your role with BAGLY?
So I'm one of the co-chairs along with Lala. So BAGLY is a youth-led, adult-supported community center. And so what that means is all the programming is youth-led, adult-supported. So the YLC stands for the Youth Leadership Committee, and they're a group of young queer and trans people who run all our programming. And Lala and I help facilitate the weekly meeting, and we help stay in touch with the meeting facilitators to make sure they have everything they need, and we help work with them to come up with programming. So Lala and I are also members of the board of directors, because what's cool about the structure of BAGLY is very core to the mission is to have youth in every step of the process. And so what that looks like is having youth representatives to the board to kind of keep in contact and communication with the other youth leaders, have other youth leaders keep in contact with the general members, etc., to make sure that everybody can have their needs met and heard.
So Lala, you're also one of these youth leader coordinators.
So we're co-chairs. I'm co-chairs of the Youth Leadership Committee. And to kind of echo what Leo was saying, we are liaisons, like you said, between the adult staff and the youth. So we also go to different meetings with like the marketing and development team, and are a part of like a bunch of different processes with the programming, with the services we provide, making sure that we get youth perspective and all of the things that we're doing. It's really great being a co-chair, especially alongside Leo. Leo is new to being a co-chair, and he's been really great. And it's almost like he's been a co-chair longer than I have. I've been learning a lot from him. And it's really awesome like working with the youth that we do, because even the youth that aren't a part of the YLC are like teaching me so much and like building my leadership skills like every single day, every single meeting that I'm a part of.
Wow. So the youth that you all are in contact with, you stayed in contact with them?
So something that's really great about BAGLY is we have weekly programming. And so we had a really quick turnaround of getting our programming virtual and onto Zoom, all of our meetings onto Zoom, and all of our facilitators still being able to help us facilitate. And something else that's great is since we serve youth, a lot of the people that we serve have grown up with technology and are kind of able to understand the ins and outs of what we're doing. But we've definitely had some challenges. But yeah, it's been really cool. We've actually been getting a lot of new members, some people that haven't been able to access the physical space because they were too far out in Massachusetts. And yeah, there's been a lot of challenges, but a lot of great opportunities to learn, and also great opportunities to connect with more community members that haven't been able to access the space before.
That is really cool. I'm imagining that people, like you said, couldn't get there before. Maybe they didn't feel safe enough to be in public, and this was a very safe way for them to be into this program.
It's been interesting how we've tried to switch things over with not only identity meetings, but as many as of the services that BAGLY offers as possible. So now we do all our mental health programming over Zoom as well, which is great that that's a service BAGLY offers. And it's just interesting to switch over to telehealth and to find ways of using technology to make programming accessible to people. And it's great because that means distance isn't a barrier. It means family acceptance isn't a barrier to accessing those resources. Sorry, there's a really loud truck behind me. I don't know if you can hear that. Whatever. So that's been great. Some people, they keep their camera off. A lot of people use the chat feature. And there's also the screen share method as well.
So telehealth, I'm glad you mentioned that. Aaron, that sounds like something different outside of what the normal BAGLY mission would be.
So we recently in the last year started doing some behavioral health programming, mental health programming in the space that took on a very different look than most places that offer it. So we have a program called Tea Time, and young people can drop in and receive 30 minutes of counseling with our therapist as a check-in. It's midweek. It's first come, first serve. And we are using a HIPAA compliant. So HIPAA compliance for young folks is we make sure that all of your information is kept under lock and key. And so it's the therapy version of Zoom. And so once a young person registers with our therapist reaches out to them and provides them with a link similar to Zoom. And they click on and they sit in the therapist waiting room, and then the therapist lets them in and they start their conversation. And we were trying to offer alternatives to young people still seeking therapy opportunities. And the youth were really great about it and made some suggestions to folks like, well, maybe you go take a walk when it's time for therapy, or maybe you sit in the car when it's time for therapy. People are trying to adapt to being home and having other folks around. So we tried to do our best to make sure that young people still felt safe in expressing what was ever happening, and then also trying to provide them with realistic resources to be able to do those things from home. We're trying to keep up with the needs and trends based on whatever it is that our young people are telling us. Our co-chairs are great for our Boston area youth, and you mentioned BAGLY being for Boston, but BAGLY actually facilitates the AGLY network, which has 13 satellite sites across the state of Massachusetts.
So other than mental health therapy, there's a lot of other services that need to be provided, like hunger. I know that right now hunger is kind of a concern for people and things like that. Are you all going out into the community, social distancing, to try to provide services that way as well?
Yeah, so we have the Direct Aid initiative that BAGLY has been working on a lot for the network. And so what that is a program that allocates direct aid funding to LGBTQ youth in need, whether that be food instability, whether that be people who have families who've lost their jobs, people who've lost their jobs and who really need money to get by right now. And so $7,000 so far have been allocated to families across the state, which is amazing. So many youth have been served. I think majority of the youth are trans identified. Over 50% are LGBTQ people of color, which is also really great. So it's been really helping folks. A lot of people at home deal with families who aren't supportive, people have a lot of different circumstances going on. And so to have BAGLY as a direct financial service can be really helpful. And so there are several tiers. Erin, correct me if I'm wrong. There's no ask, no task, where people can sign up to get a gift card. And so this is you kind of just say your name, what's going on. If you feel comfortable, you can share your situation at home, and then BAGLY will send you a gift card. Another type of tier is for the youth leaders. It's the YLC tier. So what people can do is people can send direct emails to donors, kind of checking in on them, seeing how they're doing. And it's very safe because it's through a BAGLY email. It's just checking in on folks. There's a template to help people out. People send 15 emails, I believe, and then they get some money, which is really helpful. There's also another one where youth can submit videos for marketing and development about different topics that marketing and development would find useful from home, short little videos, so it's not too heavy a lift. And this is youth that any youth can access this from across the state. They send it into marketing and development can use it for the social media, etc. And they get money that way. And it's served a lot of people, and it's really helped a lot of folks when times are tough. And so it's been a really good service while maintaining social distancing.
That is huge. I mean, that part of it, I had no idea. Funding is a good thing for you all to receive. And I want to make sure that we plug several times on here that you all would like funding, and just to be honest with you, because you're doing such an important task that doesn't happen for free. You can't give out $7,000 worth of services and gift cards for free. What are some of the ways that people can donate to you directly? There's your website, I'm assuming.
The most convenient and easy way is to go to www.bagly.org. There on the main page is a donation queue that comes up. You can provide donations there, but it also give you another option to see what it is that we're doing in the current pandemic, and so it gives people a chance to be able to read how the funds will be used. For Bagley, we try and provide a lot of services. When the space is open, we provide snacks and food in the community center, and young folks can come in and grab something to eat. We try and do clothing swaps when it's something that we think is necessary. It's been really great to have young folks want to be so involved on multiple levels. Our YLC is so intertwined from the ground up in general membership, all the way through paid peer leaders, being on the hiring committee for staff. As Leo mentioned, the co-chairs are on the board of directors. It takes a lot to move all of this programming, and they are right there with us through all of it. And we tried to modify the way that young folks meet. As Leo mentioned, we have lots of meetings and groups, but we also have game night and movie night. I think we did, was it Dance Dance Revolution one night?
Yeah,
Yes.
There's lots of play games online just like we would in the space in person, and we've been trying to find all these like online alternatives that have been kind of goofy and good.
Yeah, and I'd love to add a few other things that we do. So Leo did mention our identity meetings earlier, and so we have a bunch of different identity meetings. We have women's meeting, trans meeting, POC meeting, and one that we've recently added in the past couple of months is disability meeting. And it's been really great to have that intersection of like disabled LGBTQ youth being able to have a space like with just a bunch of people that they relate to and are able to touch on different topics of mental health, physical health, chronic illness, so many different things that youth are experiencing that maybe aren't touched on in different identity meetings. And that's been a very well attended meeting, and it's been super cool to see that people are really interested in the new things that we're establishing and that we're able to make new accessible meetings that really like mean a lot to the youth that we're serving. And then I also wanted to just go a little bit back to the direct aid because something that I think is really cool that we've been able to do is 100% of applicants to our direct aid are people that have been losing a significant amount of income. So we've been really able to help people that are the most affected by this pandemic right now. And that's just something I'm really grateful to be a part of Bagley and like to continue just serving the community that like keeps us alive. Like Bagley would not exist if it wasn't for all of the youth that contribute to our space, especially the general members. Like the general members are so loyal to us, and like just having this large like chosen family just really means a lot to all of us. And so when people donate to us, it shows that they're seeing the work that we do, and they're seeing the potential and like the beauty and like of our community and all of the youth that participate in our programs and are a part of our space.
I've always felt like if you pull up the least of us, you lift up all of us. That's how I've always tried to go through life, that the ones that need the most help, you help them, and it helps everybody else in the whole process. And for you all to put that into practice is huge.
Yeah, I also want to touch on as well, kind of as you were mentioning, Kelly, about how Bagley works really intentionally to meet people like where they're at. I think Bagley does a great job of not only encouraging youth leadership, except prioritizing it, and that looks financial as well. Bagley employs so many youth leaders and makes staying really involved and invested in the community and in the chosen family a priority by making it accessible to people, by paying people to be able to do services. For example, we have folks on the Heart team who do a lot of health education at Bagley, health education events, etc., giving folks access to information and resources about safer sex. We have a peer mental health specialist at Bagley. We have a trans health specialist who's somebody who gets people fitted for the binders that we give away at Bagley, make sure that everyone has access and kind of manages the closet of gender affirming wear and refers people to resources. So there's just youth in every step of the way.
I appreciate very much that you all are being respected and appreciated enough to where they're saying your skill set is worth money. So what is your definition of a youth, and what would the minimum age be?
We're doing some work with GSAs to bring in younger middle school groups. Anyone is welcome to come to Bagley. We've had parents bring in 10 and 11-year-olds, and we always tell them that this is their place to be, except we also make it very clear that at that time, we may not have enough 11 and 12-year-olds for them to build their own peer support. And so, sometimes that ends up being a conversation of like other resources that we could provide or other places that we're going to be that they might be interested in joining us. And in that way, depending on where it is that they are located, we may be able to refer them to one of the AGLY sites. You mentioned that group in Out Metro West. They have a much younger demographic for GSAs. They have a middle school group that is, that meets pretty regularly. And so we try and refer to any of the AGLY sites that might also be helpful for those folks.
And 2 points that makes me think of, Erin, is about how we are specifically a brave space as opposed to a safe space. So we do have a lot of safe space values, but we also have a bunch of brave space guidelines, which ensure that we are holding space for people to learn and sit with uncomfortable feelings, so that we can sort of develop a sense of mutuality and like being able to understand our differences. Like say coming into the space with two different identities and not really understanding where the other person's coming from. A brave space sort of allows for that dialogue to take place, and maybe in a way that makes people uncomfortable, but ultimately like develops into a mutual understanding and a way for people to grow, as opposed to like sugarcoating things and just like throwing a conflict away and saying, let's ignore that. And then it sort of builds and stuff like that. So us having this brave space allows for so many different people to sit in the same space and be a part of a community. And so the second point that makes me think of is how we don't have an age minimum. There are times where we can forget that younger people are people too. Like all of the youth in this space are people with autonomy, agency. They have the capacity to know who they are and to sit in that space and be just as much a part of the community as everyone else is. And so it's really cool that we are able to have this space without saying you have to be this age to know who you are and to be a part of our youth community.
That is huge, Lala. That really is. So do you all have any future things happening? Like I know it's getting close to the end of the school year and there's all of these milestones that are being changed.
So I'm super excited that you asked. This is not very school specific, but we are going to be hosting our annual Youth Pride virtually for the very first time this year, and it's going to be a week-long celebration. So it's going to be 5 days of the week, and we're going to kick off with a live show on the weekend, and actually have our executive director, Grace, interviewed by me and Leo, and sort of ask her about the history of BAGLY and talk a little bit about today. And so there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. We have like great programming planned for the week. Lots of the regular weekly programming planned that are going to be Youth Pride themed, and then some programming outside of that, for example, drag shows, and we're going to have a fashion show, and a bunch of different things like that. It's really exciting.
So we are going to be using Zoom as a format, but we're also going to be attaching it to Facebook Live. So a lot of folks will be able to watch components of this through Facebook Live. So as long as they are friends with BAGLY on Facebook, they should be able to see everything. I know social media wise, we were just talking about the way that we're going to bring performers into Zoom, and they'll be waiting in the waiting room, and we'll have a queue, and then we'll just be letting them in one by one. But if there are, if somebody has specific questions, then they can get a hold of any of the staff through BAGLY's website.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I want to spread this to as many people as I can. That's for sure.
And the theme of our Youth Pride this year is rainbows and riots. So we really want to have a great balance of like celebration, but also understanding the history of Pride is really activism based and just like standing up for our rights, and also understanding that we've gone through a lot of hardships. Pride isn't always fun and games. Sometimes it's really hard work, and it's like tears that we've shed with our community. So we really want to have a good balance of celebrating and then also still advocating for ourselves.
With you all being leaders, you all sort of have taken on this educator role yourself. Has this kind of geared you all towards possibly becoming teachers or something like that?
I've always personally wanted to be a kindergarten teacher. That's just something that I've always wanted to do. That's something that I care about. I love. I'm very much a people person. I love being around people all the time. That's just kind of like who I am. I have like a lot of energy, and it's something I care a lot about. And also, I don't know, kind of as you were saying about education, I think not a lot of trans people and queer people are represented in schools, and not a lot of young queer kids have adults to look up to who are happy and successful and thriving. And I think that's really, really critical. I think it's really critical for young people to have, who aren't even queer, who might be straight or cisgender, to have somebody, an adult in their life who is queer or trans or LGBTQ to relate to. I think all of those things are good, and I just like spending time with humans. So that's something that I personally wanted to do as a job when I grow up.
Yeah, similar with me. So I've not specifically wanted to be an educator in schools, but I've done a lot of public speaking. For example, I've spoke at the Disability Intersectionality Summit a couple of years back about the topic of the intersection of being a disabled youth. And also I've spoken at the National Period Day rally last year, and a bunch of different things like that. And I really love bringing an intersectional perspective to a lot of things. For example, like you could come to a period day rally and just think like this is something for women, but then you're like totally writing off a bunch of different forms of menstruators. Like not everyone that menstruates is a woman, and not everyone that's a woman menstruates, and things like that. So for me to be able to kind of use my experience as a non-binary person, as a disabled person, as a person of color, all of these different facets that I have, it's really important for me to be able to use those things and educate people that don't have the same firsthand experience as me. And then also to be able to uplift the voices of people in my community who may not have similar privileges that I do, in the capacity that I have to be able to educate people. So definitely being a part of the LGBTQ community and also part of BAGLY has been really great for me and really motivational for me to use myself and all of the different resources that I have as a tool for other people to learn, and also to uplift other people to share their story and to engage with their community and things like that.
Totally. And also Bagley has a Speakers Bureau program. So Bagley has lots of trainings throughout the year, training youth on public speaking tips, and encouraging people to share their story and teaching them kind of the ropes for how that is done. And then youth are paid to go to like with other youth and with other like adult mentors and advisors to go to schools and hospitals and faith communities and just definitely other groups around the area to speak and share their stories, to educate around health education or trans identity, trans experience, etc. So kind of as Lala was saying, for sure, and Bagley invests a lot in both training youth on how to do that and how to share their stories, and also compensating youth who do that, really prioritizing youth and showing youth that their experiences are valuable, their perspectives are valuable, and their expertise is really valuable. So that's another program at Bagley that really centers youth leadership and youth voice.
Storytelling is what it's all about. That's how you change minds, is you introduce a story to someone and then they find something in that story they can relate to. Does anybody have anything they want to add to it?
A really big thing that I wanted to make sure I spoke about is how, with all of the challenges we've had within this pandemic and like changing all of our programming and services to being online, I think we've done it really smoothly with so much stress on us, but also so much hope and so much love for the people that we're serving and working alongside and building community with, that it's, some of it doesn't really feel like work, and the parts that do are so worth it. And like the youth have just been so great at like communicating their boundaries, their needs, like when they need space, but also have been like giving so much more than they have when we were working in the physical space. And I'm just really grateful to be a part of a community that is so hardworking and so dedicated to continue building community and continue providing accessible and safe spaces to people that are really in need of them.
Just a second, what Lala had to say, I think all this drive that we have for this community is something that we all support each other so much. And I think that like throughout this whole pandemic, when everything seems to be changing, Bagley has been a really core and consistent part of everybody's lives. I know it has at least been for me. It's been a place where I see my friends, like It's really felt like a second home and second community for me. It's a place where I receive mental health services. It really is definitely a rock throughout a lot of change, and I think that's been the case for a lot of youth leaders and general members. And so I think that really is how everyone is so passionate and able to take on all this work. And as Lala said, some of it doesn't feel like work.
Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for coming on to the show. Aaron, Leo, Lala, everybody that's at BAGLY right now. Thank you all for the hard work that you're doing. And when I was your age, I thought I was alone. I didn't know there was other trans people. And very few kids will ever go through that experience again in the United States. They might be alone, but they will know that there's other people like them out there. And you all are working hard to make that happen. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.